chapter 24, verse 15. So when you see the appalling sacrilege, the abomination that astonishes and makes desolate, spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader take notice and ponder and consider and heed this. Reference Daniel 9:27, 11:31, and 12:11. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not come down and go into the house to take anything, and let him who is in the field not turn back to get his overcoat. And alas, for the women who are pregnant and for those who have a nursing baby in those days, pray that your flight may not be in winter or on a Sabbath, for then there will be great tribulation, affliction, distress, and oppression such as has not been seen from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be again. Reference Daniel 12:11, Joel 2:2. And if those days had not been shortened, no human would endure and survive. But for the sake of the elect, God's chosen ones, those days will be shortened. If anyone says to you then, "Behold, here is the Christ, the Messiah," or "There he is," do not believe it, for false Christs and false prophets will arise, and they will show great signs and wonders, so as deceiving and leading astray, if possible, will occur, even to the elect, God's chosen ones. See, I have warned you beforehand, so if they say to you, "Behold, he is in the wilderness, desert," do not go out there. If they tell you, "Behold, he is in the secret places or inner rooms," do not believe it. For just as the lightning flashes from the east and shines and is seen as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Wherever there is a fallen body, there the vultures or eagles will flock together, according to Job 39:30. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not shed its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Isaiah 13:10, 34:4, Joel 2:10-11, Zephaniah 1:15. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn and beat their breasts and lament in anguish. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory in brilliancy and splendor. Daniel 7:13, Revelation 1:7. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect, his chosen ones, from the four winds, even from one end of the universe to the other. Isaiah 27:13, Zechariah 9:14. From the fig tree learn this lesson: as soon as its young shoots become soft and tender and it puts out its leaves, you know of a surety that summer is near. So also when you see these signs all taken together coming to pass, you may know of a surety that he is near at the very doors. As were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For just as in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, men marrying and women being given in marriage, until the very day when Noah went into the ark, and they did not know or understand until the flood came and swept them all away, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. At that time 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the handmill, one will be taken and one will be left. Watch therefore, give strict attention, be cautious and active, for you do not know in what kind of a day, whether a near or remote one, your Lord is coming. But understand this: had the householder known in what watch the thief was coming, he would have watched and would not have allowed his house to be undermined and broken into. You also must be ready, therefore, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour when you do not expect him. Who then is the faithful, thoughtful, and wise servant whom his master has put in charge of his household to give to the others the food and supplies at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom, when his master comes, he will find so doing. I solemnly declare to you, he will set him over all his possessions. But if that servant is wicked and says to himself, my master is delayed and is going to be gone a long time, and begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunken, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour of which he is not aware, and will punish him and put him with the pretenders, hypocrites. There will be weeping and grinding of teeth. Matthew chapter 25. Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, thoughtless, without forethought, and 5 were wise, sensible, intelligent, and prudent. For when the foolish took their lamps, they did not take any extra oil with them. But the wise took flasks of oil along with them also, with their lamps. While the bridegroom lingered and was slow in coming, they all began nodding their heads, and they fell asleep. But at midnight there was a shout, Behold, the bridegroom, go out to meet him. Then all those virgins got up and put their own lamps in order. And the foolish said to the wise, Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise replied, There will not be enough for us and for you. Go instead to the dealers and buy for yourselves. But while they were going away to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were prepared went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Later, the other virgins also came and said, Lord, Lord, open the door to us. But he replied, I solemnly declare to you, I do not know you. I am not acquainted with you. Watch, therefore, give strict attention, and be cautious and active, for you know neither the day nor the hour when the Son of Man will come. For it is like a man who was about to take a long journey, and he called his servants together and entrusted them with his property. To one he gave 5 talents, probably about $5,000, to another 2, to another 1, to each in proportion to his own personal ability. Then he departed and left the country. He who had received the first 5 talents went at once and traded with them and gained 5 talents more. And likewise, he who had received the 2 talents, he also gained 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 came and brought him 5 more, saying, Master, you entrusted me to 5 talents. See, here I have gained 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, you upright, honorable, admirable, and faithful servant. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will put you in charge of much. Enter into and share the joy, the delight, and blessedness which your master enjoys. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. Here I have gained 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, you upright, honorable, admirable, and faithful servant. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will put you in charge of much. Enter into and share the joy, the delight, and blessedness which your master enjoys. He who had received 1 talent also came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be harsh and a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you had not winnowed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is your own. But his master answered him, You wicked and lazy, idle servant. Did you indeed know that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not winnowed? Then you should have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent away from him and give it to the one who has the 10. For to everyone who has will be given more, and he will be furnished richly so that he will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, even what he does not have will be taken away. And throw the good-for-nothing servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and grinding of teeth. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, his majesty and splendor, and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them, the people, from one another as a shepherd separates his sheep from the goats. And he will cause the sheep to stand at his right hand, but the goats at his left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, Come, you blessed of my Father, you favored of God and appointed to eternal salvation. Inherit, receive as your own the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you brought me together with yourselves, and welcomed and entertained and lodged me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me with help and ministering care. I was in prison, and you came to see me. Isaiah 58:7. Then the just and upright will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and give you food, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you as a stranger and welcome and entertain you, or naked and clothed you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and came to visit you? And the king will reply to them, Truly I tell you, in so far as you did it for one of the least in the estimation of men, of these, my brethren, you did it for me. Proverbs 19:17. Then he will say to those at his left hand, Be gone from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me and entertain me. I was naked, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not visit me with help and ministering care. Then they also in their turn will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not minister to you? And he will reply to them, Solemnly I declare to you, in so far as you failed to do it for the least in the estimation of men, of these, you failed to do it for me. Then they will go away into eternal punishment, but those who are just and upright and in right standing with God into eternal life. Matthew chapter 26. When Jesus had ended this discourse, he said to his disciples, You know that the Passover is in 2 days, and the Son of Man will be delivered up treacherously to be crucified. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the open court of the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and consulted together in order to arrest Jesus by stratagem secretly and put him to death. But they said it must not be during the feast, for fear that there will be a riot among the people. Now, when Jesus came back to Bethany and was in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very precious perfume, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at the table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, For what purpose is all this waste? For this perfume might have been sold for a large sum of money, and the money given to the poor. But Jesus, fully aware of this, said to them, Why do you bother the woman? She has done a noble, praiseworthy, and beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this perfume on my body, she has done something to prepare me for my burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this good news is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will be told also in memory of her." Then one of the 12 apostles, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I hand Jesus over to you?" And they weighed out for and paid him 30 pieces of silver, about $21.60. And from that moment he sought a fitting opportunity to betray him. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, Passover week, the disciples came to Jesus and said to him, "Where do you wish us to prepare for you to eat the Passover supper?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The Master says, my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" And accordingly the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they made ready the Passover supper. When it was evening, he was reclining at table with the 12 disciples. And as they were eating, he said, "Solemnly I say to you, one of you will betray me." They were exceedingly pained and distressed and deeply hurt and sorrowful, and began to say to him one after another, "Surely it cannot be I, Lord, can it?" He replied, "He who has just dipped his hand in the same dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man is going just as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better, more profitable and wholesome for that man if he had never been born." Judas the betrayer said, "Surely it is not I, is it, Master?" He said to him, "You have stated the fact." Now as they were eating, Jesus took bread and, praising God, gave thanks and asked him to bless it to their use. And when he had broken it, he gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink of it, all of you. For this is my blood of the new covenant, which ratifies the agreement and is being poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I say to you, I shall not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it with you new and of superior quality in my Father's kingdom." And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "You will all be offended and stumble, fall away because of me this night, distrusting and deserting me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up to life again, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." Peter declared to him, "Though they all are offended and stumble and fall away because of you, I will never do so." Jesus said to him, "Solemnly I declare to you, this very night, before a single rooster crows, you will deny and disown me 3 times." Peter said to him, "Even if I must die with you, I will not deny or disown you." And all the disciples said the same thing. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he told his disciples, "Sit down here while I go over yonder and pray." And taking with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he began to show grief and distress of mind, and was deeply depressed. Then he said to them, "My soul is very sad and deeply grieved, so that I am almost dying of sorrow. Stay here and keep awake and keep watch with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself upon the ground on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, not what I desire, but as you will and desire." And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "What? Are you so utterly unable to stay awake and keep watch with me for 1 hour? All of you must keep awake, give strict attention, be cautious and active, and watch and pray, that you may not come into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, a second time he went away and prayed, My Father, if this cannot pass by unless I drink it, your will be done. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were weighed down with sleep. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the third time, using the same words. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of especially wicked sinners, whose way or nature it is to act in opposition to God. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. As he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12 apostles, came up, and with him a great crowd with swords and clubs, from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, The one I shall kiss is the man. Seize him. And he came up to Jesus at once and said, Hail, greetings, good health to you, long life to you, Master. And he embraced him and kissed him with pretended warmth and devotion. Jesus said to him, Friend, for what are you here? Then they came up and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. And behold, one of those who were with Jesus reached out his hand and drew his sword, and striking the body servant of the high priest, cut off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, Put your sword back into place, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you suppose that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will immediately provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that it must come about this way? At that moment, Jesus said to the crowds, Have you come out with swords and clubs as you would against a robber to capture me? Day after day I was accustomed to sit in the porches and courts of the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place in order that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples deserted him and fleeing escaped. But those who had seized Jesus took him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance as far as the courtyard of the high priest's home. He even went inside and sat with the guards to see the end. Now the chief priests and the whole council, the Sanhedrin, sought to get false witnesses to testify against Jesus so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many witnesses came forward to testify. At last 2 men came forward and testified, This fellow said, I am able to tear down the sanctuary of the temple of God and to build it up again in 3 days. And the high priest stood up and said, Have you no answer to make? What about this that these men testify against you? But Jesus kept silent, and the high priest said to him, I call upon you to swear by the living God and tell us whether you are the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus said to him, You have stated the fact. More than that, I tell you, you will in the future see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the Almighty and coming on the clouds of the sky. Then the high priest tore his clothes and exclaimed, He has uttered blasphemy. What need have we of further evidence? You have now heard his blasphemy. What do you think now? They answered, He deserves to be put to death. Then they spat in his face and struck him with their fists, and some slapped him in the face, saying, Prophesy to us, you Christ, the Messiah. Who was it that struck you? Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and one maid came up to him and said, You were also with Jesus the Galilean. But he denied it falsely before them all, saying, I do not know what you mean. And when he had gone out to the porch, another maid saw him, and she said to the bystanders, This fellow was with Jesus the Nazarene. And again he denied it and disowned him with an oath, saying, I do not know the man. After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "You certainly are one of them too, for even your accent betrays you." Then Peter began to invoke a curse on himself and to swear, "I do not even know the man." And at that moment, a rooster crowed. And Peter remembered Jesus' words when he had said, "Before a single rooster crows, you will deny and disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. Matthew chapter 27. When it was morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people held a consultation against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and handed him over to Pilate the governor. When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, Judas was afflicted in mind and troubled for his former folly, and with remorse, with little more than a selfish dread of the consequences, he brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, "I have sinned in betraying innocent blood." They replied, "What is that to us? See to that yourself." And casting the pieces of silver forward into the holy place of the sanctuary of the temple, he departed, and he went off and hanged himself. But the chief priests, picking up the pieces of silver, said, "It is not legal to put these in the consecrated treasury, for it is the price of blood." So after consultation, they brought with them the pieces of silver to the potter's field as a place in which to bury strangers. Therefore, that piece of ground has been called the field of blood to the present day. Then were fulfilled the words spoken by Jeremiah the prophet when he said, "And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him on whom a price had been set by some of the sons of Israel. And they gave them for the potter's field as the Lord directed me." Now Jesus stood before the governor Pilate, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said to him, "You have stated the fact." But when the charges were made against him by the chief priests and elders, he made no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many and how serious are the things they are testifying against you?" But he made no reply to him, not even to a single accusation, so that the governor marveled greatly. Now, at the feast of the Passover, the governor was in the habit of setting free for the people any one prisoner whom they chose. And at that time they had a notorious prisoner whose name was Barabbas. So when they had assembled for this purpose, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to set free for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew that it was because of envy that they had handed him over to him. Also, while he was seated on the judgment bench, his wife sent him a message saying, "Have nothing to do with that just and upright man, for I have had a painful experience today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders prevailed on the people to ask for Barabbas and put Jesus to death. Again, the governor said to them, "Which of the 2 do you wish me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who was called Christ?" They all replied, "Let him be crucified." And he said, "Why? What has he done that is evil?" But they shouted all the louder, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but rather that a riot was about to break out, he took water and washed his hands in the presence of the crowd, saying, "I am not guilty of nor responsible for this righteous man's blood. See to it yourselves." Reference Deuteronomy 21:6-9 and Psalm 26:6. And all the people answered, "Let his blood be on us and on our children," according to Joshua 2:19. So he set free for them Barabbas, and he had Jesus whipped and delivered him up to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the palace, and they gathered the whole battalion about him. And they stripped off his clothes and put a scarlet robe, garment of dignity and office worn by Roman officers, put a reed in his right hand, and kneeling before him, they made sport of him, saying, "Hail, greetings, good health to you, long life to you, King of the Jews." And they spat on him, and took the reed, and struck him on the head. And when they finished making sport of him, they stripped him of the robe, and put his own garments on him, and led him away to be crucified. As they were marching forth, they came upon a man of Cyrene named Simon. This man they forced to carry the cross of Jesus. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull, they offered him wine mingled with gall to drink. But when he tasted it, he refused to drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided and distributed his garments among them by casting lots, so that the prophet's saying was fulfilled. They parted my garments among them, and over my apparel they cast lots. Psalm 22:18. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. And over his head they put the accusation against him, the cause of his death, which read, "This is Jesus, King of the Jews." At the same time 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on the right hand and one on the left. And those who passed by spoke reproachfully and abusively, and jeered at him, wagging their heads. And they said, "You who would tear down the sanctuary of the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, rescue yourself from death. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests with the scribes and elders made sport of him, saying, "He rescued others from death. He himself cannot rescue from death. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in and acknowledge and cleave to him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he cares for him, and will have him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And the robbers who were crucified with him also abused and reproached and made sport of him in the same way. Now from the 6th hour, noon, there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour, 3 o'clock. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you abandoned me, leaving me helpless, forsaking and failing me in my need? Psalm 22:1 reference. And some of the bystanders, when they heard it, said, "This man is calling for Elijah." And one of them immediately ran and took a sponge, soaked it with vinegar, a sour wine, and put it on a reed, and was about to give it to him to drink. But the others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him from death." And Jesus cried again with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. And at once the curtain of the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep in death were raised to life. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those who were with him, keeping watch over Jesus, observed the earthquake and all that was happening, they were terribly frightened and filled with awe, and said, "Truly this was God's Son." There were also numerous women there looking on from a distance, who were of those who had accompanied Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him. Among them were Mary of Magdala, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who also was a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. And Joseph took the body and rolled it up in a clean linen cloth used for swathing dead bodies, and laid it in his own fresh, undefiled tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. And he rolled a big boulder over the door of the tomb and went away. And Mary of Magdala and the other Mary kept sitting there opposite the tomb. The next day, that is, the day after the day of preparation for the Sabbath, the chief priests and the Pharisees assembled before Pilate and said, "Sir, we have just remembered how that vagabond impostor said while he was still alive, 'After 3 days I will rise again.' Therefore, give an order to have the tomb made secure and safeguarded until the 3rd day, for fear that his disciples will come and steal him away, and tell the people that he has risen from the dead, and the last deception and fraud will be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "You have a guard of soldiers, take them and go, make it as secure as you can." So they went off and made the tomb secure by sealing the boulder, a guard of soldiers being with them and remaining to watch. Matthew chapter 28. Now, after the Sabbath, near dawn of the 1st day of the week, Mary of Magdala and the other Mary went to take a look at the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled the boulder back and sat upon it. His appearance was like lightning, and his garments as white as snow. And those keeping guard were so frightened at the sight of him that they were agitated, and they trembled and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be alarmed and frightened, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here, he has risen, and as he said he would do. Come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead, and behold, he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you." So they left the tomb hastily with fear and great joy, and ran to tell the disciples. And as they went, behold, Jesus met them and said, "Hail, greetings." And they went up to him and clasped his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be alarmed and afraid. Go and tell my brethren to go into Galilee, and there they will see me." While they were on their way, behold, some of the guards went into the city and reported to the chief priests everything that had occurred. And when they, the chief priests, had gathered with the elders and had consulted together, they gave a sufficient sum of money to the soldiers and said, "Tell the people, his disciples came at night and stole him away while we were sleeping. And if the governor hears of it, we will appease him and make you safe and free from trouble and care." So they took the money and did as they were instructed, and this story has been current among the Jews to the present day. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed, and made appointment with them. And when they saw him, they fell down and worshipped him, but some doubted. Jesus approached and, breaking the silence, said to them, "All authority, all power of rule in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go then and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them into the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe everything that I have commanded you, and behold, I am with you all the days, perpetually, uniformly, and on every occasion, to the very close and consummation of the age." Amen. Let it be.